All right. So, as our friends keep coming in, let's just take a moment to presence where we're coming in from to feel our global family. Oops, that happens sometimes. To find. Hello and welcome, beloved. Welcome to my channel. This is Eden Amador. That happens sometimes when I go live on YouTube. So it's not about perfection. My tech stuff will one day be seamless. So I want to introduce Charlotte Sophia, who's a very, very dear friend and beloved priestess sister of mine. We were together in Glastonbury, England this summer. And she and I have been traveling for a long time, many, many years, on a path of heart, a path of initiation, and a path of just very conscious, soul focused growth. And Charlotte invited me to do an interview with her. And we were speaking a little bit more about the purpose of this interview. And right before you came on, Charlotte and I were dropping into the heart really deep. And I was actually tearing up a bit, just feeling this precious opportunity to get more intimate and connect in the heart. So, Charlotte, I'm going to just pass it to you for a moment to say hello. And if there's anything you want to share in the beginning too.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. Yeah, I had asked Eden if she would share her story because I think it's a powerful story, and I know that we are in such a powerful moment in time where we are really being asked to come so deeply into our hearts, to lead from the deepest sense of sovereignty and worthiness inside ourselves. And we all know that that takes having to walk through the forest of our own being to transmute our own shadows. And I know that for many of us, the women here, like one of the deepest shadows that we carry within ourselves that we have to transmute is this shadow of comparison, of competition, of jealousy.
I think you've frozen. I'm not sure if it's me. Am I still moving? Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay.
So it's me that's frozen.
Yeah, you're back, Charlotte. Okay.
So it's this call, to look at, this, I don't know where I cut off, but just speaking to one of the deep shadows of this feminine that we are having to transmute within ourselves. And to me, Eden's story, Eden's journey has put her in the belly of this wound, right? In the sort of glamour industry, the fashion industry, the modeling industry, the music industry. I don't know that world. That's completely, something I cannot relate to. Yet I think we can all relate to the wound of, comparison and how that shows up, the comparison, the judgment, the separation. And so I asked Eden to meet with me and that we could sit with you together, vulnerably in the heart, not as a priestess or a teacher or anything, but in our humanity, in just the humanness, the realness of what is that journey? What is the journey that you have walked, Eden, And so that was my ask, that can we sit here together and just to learn more about that. It's unscripted. We're both coming here today, in our own rawness, in our own vulnerability, in not knowing what's going to come out, but just knowing that we wanted to show up in that way, in a different way than maybe Eden has held her other calls too. So thank you for joining us. And I know I'm going to pass it back to you now, Eden, just to sort of lead us in a deepening. meditation and just presencing this time we're in too, and where we're at and what we're witnessing in the world.
Thank you, Charlotte. Wow. Yes. So yesterday I talked to Charlotte and I said, to come together, to have the opportunity to be together in this way is really precious to me. And I've been feeling really raw and really feeling so much for the collective, for our brothers and sisters all over the world, but especially in the Middle East right now. And even though this was originally going to be about my trials and tribulations and the shadows that I've had to transmute, I thought, Charlotte, let's begin in the heart together. Let's drop in and just all be in this place where we are the one heart, because there's so much power in that. There's so much power in us coming together in the heart. We're here at a time where the division and the illusion of separation seems to be cranked up top volume on the planet when you tune into media, when you tune into what's really going on all around. It's so intense. So let's be that balm, even in this way, on the energetic, etheric plane, because as we all know here, life isn't just physical. There's ways that we all impact each other so much in our emotions, our mental state, our frequency. So if we could come together and raise our own frequency a little bit more and find more peace inside ourselves and open our hearts, then it's all amazing. This call is worth every moment of it just for that. So even though I'm not meant to be the guide and the teacher today, we're just going to do a beautiful brief meditation in the heart. Okay, everyone? So let's bring our hand to our heart chakra, and just close your eyes with me for a moment. If you want to put your other hand on your lower belly, just anchoring yourself into this body, this precious body, deepening the breath. Let's take a few sighs together. The shared breath of life, this precious moment. We can only breathe in the moment. Breathing deeper than you usually breathe. Give yourself a really deep oxygenating breath, taking in lots of prana. And that sigh soothes the body, calms the emotions, quiets the mind. If you haven't done a sigh, try it. One more big sigh. And leaning a little more into the back body, let's bow our chins and come with our focused attention to that space behind our hand on our hearts. And as we breathe into the heart, you can bow your chin and feel the back of the heart chakra, just breathing some space, some extra opening, some light. It's said that there's a very precious, precious place in the back of the heart chakra towards the spine. It's like a portal that we sometimes call the sacred heart. Just diving into that portal, into that place of light, of love, of peace, of truth, infinite wisdom, all-encompassing compassion, this place that we are in our essence, wholly and fully connected, divine, human. And here, just like that expression, namaste, we are the same, this spark of consciousness, of light, the one heart, the sacred heart. And feel in that place, this place where your soul has chosen to come into form in your mother's womb. With all the dire beauty and chaos of the world, we chose to be born in this time, to awaken, to evolve, to perhaps attain enlightenment. Some beings may be on that path. It's enough to be here in the heart together, to find peace in this moment. And as we awaken to this greater connection and this prayer for peace within, just breathing and giving the heart a little energy with the hand, I'm going to speak a simple prayer that I do daily for us. You may resonate. Some people have different words for spirit, source, the divine. Beloved divine light that we've come from, that which is inside of us and that which we shall return to, guide us. Make us like rays of light emanating forth from your center point, aligned with your great purpose. O great source of light, of love, of peace, of truth, of infinite wisdom and all-encompassing compassion. Awaken our hearts and our minds to see truly beyond the illusion of separation, to see connection, beauty that surrounds. Divine Mother, welcome us into your peace, into your forgiveness. Give us your light. Divine Father, make us like instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sorrow, joy. May we not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying to the small self that we're born into eternal life. Deep breath into the heart. If you lift your chin, feel the petals of your heart just lifting to that source of light. It's like your devotion, your bhakti is opening you to receive more of this peace in this moment. As we receive this peace and this light, this re-entrainment, sending out this goodwill, it is said that the heart emits photons constantly, and that when we pray sincerely and meditate on a person or a people or a place that is suffering with sincere compassion and love, that the photons we emanate increase radically. The sun heart that we have, all of us. So let us send this light first rippling out to the beings in your innermost circles who are suffering, feeling this light just beaming into their hearts, those who aren't here on this call. In any way they're suffering, just opening your heart to specific people, sending this compassion, this peace, and then expanding that ripple to your community, expanding that ripple of sun heart, love, light, peace across this globe, especially to the pockets that are most dark and filled with separation, and send that light to those who need it the most. And that could be those who are in those boardrooms and in those military industrial complex meetings. Send it to their hearts. Send that love, that light to the politicians. Love the ones that your personality might want to judge or hate. Love them in this moment as the divine children they were, and they still are in the center of their hearts. They must remember. And so we remember, and we blanket this beautiful world, this Eden, this earth with our love. Breathing and just feeling that light that we share. One more deep breath and slowly bringing both hands together in front of the heart in Namaste. We give thanks for this day. We give thanks for this chance to come together in this good way, to pray, to remember, to open the heart, to raise our frequency. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And slowly release our mudra and come back together with our eyes open. Only love. Only love is real. Only love. Charlotte, if you want to unmute yourself now, go ahead and as within, so without. Blessed be. Yeah. Whoop.
Thank you for that prayer, Eden. You said something just before we came on, the question, like, who am I? And I'd love it just to, if you're willing just to speak those words, just so we come back into that place.
Yeah. Who am I? This morning I was standing on the earth looking at the sun, praying and meditating, and Deborah says, "You're love." We all are. I am another you. Yes. And I am a woman. I'm a woman who feels deeply. I'm a woman who is here in this time, awakening and feeling my love for humanity, my love for life. And I'm starting to feel us together awakening. And I'm a being who will never let go of that vision. I'm a being who will hold on to that vision of us in a world where we remember, a world where we recognize each other. Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to weave that piece back in because I think, just it feels like we're sort of at our darkest hour right now. We're really witnessing patriarchy at its darkest hour. And, whilst, as we're seeing all that's unfolding in the Middle East and with the genocide, with the wars, and while this isn't new, it's just that we're really seeing it now. We're witnessing it with the technology. And it's asking us to not turn away. It's asking us to be in our humanity, to be human, to feel it, to witness it, and to stand for the truth, to stand for love. And, as we all remember that in this journey, we're each on to embody love. And that's also part of the reason why I wanted to speak to you, because in the lineage that Eden and I are both ordained priestesses with the 13 Moon Mystery School, we work with archetypes. And the goddess of love is one of the archetypes that is Eden's primary archetype, right? So the goddess of love, it is the pink frequency. It is about the heart, the open heart. It's about vulnerability, intimacy, unconditional love, beauty, harmony. And that is all the light qualities of the goddess of love. And then on the shadow side of that, this archetype is about comparison, competition, jealousy, manipulation, right? And there's many of us, right? We have all the archetypes within us. Those of you may know the archetypes, and those that are not familiar, we have all these archetypes within us, and there's some that are stronger than others. And we have to walk this path to embody the light. We have to sort of walk through the shadow. And, I think, I know you've been, Eden, in this sort of, I only know you in this world, right? But there's a previous life that you've lived, which was the very glamour, the model world, the fashion industry. You're an international model at a young age. So I want to hear in a moment, I really want to hear a little bit more about that. And I'm also aware that there's often, like in the email you sent out, there's often a lot of comments. And I'm just going to read some messages that have been sent to you in the past, which is not uncommon. And one of the messages is, it looks quite easy for a beautiful woman like you, who has been genetically blessed, to awaken to her divine feminine, along with your charmed and easy life conditions. Right? So those are comments I know Eden has received quite a lot in the past. And then there's another example of a story of a woman that did step into the mystery school training with Eden, who wrote, "I'm sorry for the way I shut my heart to you and couldn't trust you at first because of the way you look. I'm so glad I got over my comparing mind to receive the love and compassion you've shown me, along with your deep wisdom." And I only share this not to highlight or pedestal Eden in any way, but to share it because how many of us have also compared other women? How many of us have closed our hearts down to someone else because of our own fear, of our own jealousy, of our own comparison, right? There's a deep wound that we all know. And we all have different shadows that we're here to transmute. We all have different aspects of that collective shadow, and we've all had unique soul journeys that we've walked. And so I feel like Eden, because she was put, her life orchestrated it, that she was put into the belly of this shadow. She was put into the belly of the patriarchal shadow, where it's, highlighting the external beauty of women, of the feminine. And with that, no doubt, and we'll find out, she's had to transmute a lot of her own shadow with that. And so I want to begin, just maybe, Eden, actually, first of all, I'm just going to look at the chat for a moment, because I just want to ask, raise of hands, or just sort of, if you yourself know this shadow of comparison in some way. Maybe it's not a huge shadow for you, but in some way, just let's just own in ourselves this shadow in us.
I think men and women can relate to competition. The patriarchy pits us against each other from the get-go. It is the soup we're swimming in, have been. Yeah.
So yes, we've yes, I can relate. Hatred hurts on the inside, no matter what we look on the outside. I feel so moved by projection as the first share.
I love what Susan is saying. Feeling the shift now to collaboration. That is the divine feminine. That is what's going on here today.
Yes. Right. And so it's really shifting into this, to this, because while the patriarchal operating system has pitted us against each other, this is what we have to transmute and clear within ourselves so that we can truly come into this deeper embodiment of leading as love. And the feminine way of leadership is inclusivity. It's celebration. It's actually honoring and celebrating each other. It's celebrating the paths each one of us has walked. It's celebrating our beauty. It's being inspired by each other. It's like allowing the creativity to flow between each other as we witness each other's gifts. This is the true gift of, the heart-centered leadership. So this is like the deeper purpose of why we're also wanting to bring this topic, this conversation forth, as we deepen with this archetype and this journey of Eden's. So I would love to just start with just a really brief overview, Eden, of the journey you've taken, just a sort of maybe historical journey, so we can get a feel of the life you've lived in, and then we'll dive deeper into the sort of deeper aspects of that.
In some ways, thank you, Charlotte. I'm so lit up right now, and thank you everyone who's sharing. It's feeling so good to feel each other. My beginnings were really, in a way, very magical because I was born into a garden and I thought my name was Sunshine. my father, a musician, gardener, my mom, an artist, young hippies in love. They joked I was conceived on LSD, maybe. So there was this very open consciousness and beauty. No TV, no fluoridated water, living on a piece of land with animals, gardens, wells, well water. And, they were young too. So it was also chaotic, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I was the only child on this commune. And I grew up fast in a way by witnessing a lot of things that are kind of advanced for little kids as far as sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So by the time I started going to a little preschool in a hollowed out school bus with a Native American woman named Miss Silverwolf who owned wolves, I thought her name was that because she had long silver braids and owned wolf dogs. I was the littlest child around all these older kids experimenting with, swear words at 4 years old, just really kind of not guided in a way too. Kind of a wild thing on the land with the animals. And then by the time they integrated me into public school, I was a wild thing. I was getting in trouble all the time because I was bored out of my mind in the system and the schooling system. They thought I had discipline issues. I thought my name was Sunshine. They kept calling me Sarah. I kept ignoring them. And then finally I was tested and I was reading at like second grade level at 5 and doing math. So I was just bored. Flash forward, just the awkward, weird kid that just felt like I had the wrong clothes, the wrong food, the wrong knowledge because I didn't watch TV. So I knew what it was like to be outcast and not belong. And then my dad he was an architect. He ended up building a geodesic dome house in Hawaii for a year, where I was bullied physically and verbally for a whole year in school. And for being a haole, for being a white kid, and had horrible health issues because of it, just constant pain from the stress. And so we left Hawaii and I was behind and felt like I didn't know anything in school because I missed so much school for a year. This is a lot of info. I can skip ahead to catching up and being like, this really, really nerdy, like straight A, nerdy, flute playing, weird kid. I was in an outcast group in middle school called the Scums. So I didn't start off like, goddess of love at all. I started off like the really weird little hippie, nerdy outcast kid. And then when I turned 13, my life changed like this spring awakening. My body changed, my face, I grew into my features, I changed, and I walked into high school, a very young high schooler at 13 years old. An object of sexual desire and beauty to the opposite sex. For the first time in my life, I was getting so much attention for the way I looked. And it was weird. It was really weird being suddenly seen and wanted and empowered just because of the way I looked. But inside of me was still this super weird little hippie kid whose mom had already gotten me into yoga and spiritual books. So now I'm a cheerleader in a public high school, looking like what every, California girl image people have. But inside, I've been reading Baba Ram Dass, Be Here Now, an autobiography of a yogi, and playing my flute and meditating and doing yoga. And I still felt like I didn't belong. Even though I was looking like the part, there was all of these feelings and these places inside of me that I could not connect with the girls and the young women. Catty, gossipy, really, lowest level, you can call it black magic, where I'd be sitting with one popular girl and she's talking shit, excuse my language, about another cheerleader. And I'm thinking, why are you saying this? You're friends. Like there was an innocence too. And then I'm saying out loud, wow, you probably speak this way about me when I'm not here, don't you? because I was so open and innocent in some ways. So that whole world was challenging for me. By the time I was 15, I was scouted to model. At 15 years old, my summer after my sophomore year, I went to New York City by myself in a modeling apartment with a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old. And we were picked up in limos and brought to nightclubs. We were put the front of the line in the VIP area with alcohol. We were picked up and brought to film premieres, put at tables with producers and directors. I was still a child, before my sophomore, it was at the end of my sophomore year of high school. You can imagine sitting next to Bruce Willis and Demi Moore at the premiere of Die Hard, going like, oh my God. And in that world, I was given plenty of opportunities for drugs and alcohol at 15 by rich and famous adults. And part of me was just observing. I had my father's voice in my head, which, thank God, not having a television, living on the garden, there was this through line that was like, none of this is real. This is bullshit. Just watch, just stay attentive. But there were many moments that I was asked, like just like that movie Fame, if you show your tits, there's a light that comes out of your eyes that'll make you famous. Things like this happened to me at 15 in New York City. So yeah, it was a big shock. And there was part of me that felt like I can do this. I can play this game. I can make all this money and travel. So at 17, the plan was to take a year off before college and go to Paris. And in that year, I found myself in even darker and stranger situations, at a party at a beautiful French actress's apartment. It was her 25th birthday, Emmanuelle Singer. Her husband was a notorious pedophile who'd been extradited out of America. I had no idea. I was invited by my 16-year-old roommate to go to this French actress's birthday. We were drugged, 15 and 16. And it's by the grace of Goddess that I had enough wherewithal, even in an altered state, to make some choices that saved me from being raped at that point in my journey. But it was the belly of the beast in the sense that that was happening all around me. We were sat at the nightclubs next to the famous people every weekend. And yeah, it's the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing that you hear about now. I lived it.
So let's just pause there for a moment and just thank you for sharing that. So I want to just ask, if we go back to that 15-year-old self, now that's, being thrust into this world, being thrust into all that you shared there, like how did that affect you? Like what shifted for you?
There were two parts, in all honesty. There was a part that was still very allured by the glamour world. There was a part that wanted to be famous, that wanted, we're so conditioned as children to, I was reading Elle magazine. I was thinking, this is the ultimate opportunity. I'm going to go for it. And there was another part that I felt was the observer that was already meditating, that was already kind of like 1 foot out watching. And I feel really, really grateful for that, for my mother, who was a yogini, and my father, who was like this Taoist gardener, that their consciousness impacted me enough to go into some of these situations. And even though it wasn't safe, I stayed in my sovereignty. And there was a time, I know I told you the story, where I had to use my voice really, really strongly to avoid being molested or raped. And yeah, I don't know if it's worth speaking that, but I know a lot of women go through this, a lot of young women. It is so prevalent. The
think
other,
it's
go
a
ahead.
powerful, I just I know you've shared that story a bit, and it was quite moving for me, and it's quite powerful. Um, in that story where you were drugged, and um, actually how you stood up for yourself, and I think that's actually important to share.
So there was an incident after being, I guess it's called roofied, where the person that drugged my roommate and I wouldn't take us home, and he took us back to his apartment and said, "You'll never be able to sleep if you don't take this." And he gave us both another pill. And I, of course, didn't trust him at this point. So I put it in the side of my mouth. And then in privacy, I hid it under the mattress of a bed. And then about an hour and a half later, he came in, and I had my back facing the door, and he came in, and I heard him, and I was like on high alert, and my heart was pounding. And there was really this like stillness then that happened when he got in the bed and slipped his hand up into my shirt. And instead of collapsing or freezing or pretending to be asleep, I turned around and I looked him in the eyes and I said, "You are not a monster. You are not a monster." And the effect that that had, and I don't know where that came from, something in my soul chose to say that. And he stopped and he said, "I am so sorry." And he started to cry. And I said, "You don't have to do this to women, to young women anymore." He said, "I'm so lonely." And I said, "It's still not right. It's still not okay." And in that moment, I don't know that he changed his ways. All I know is that I changed my course in that moment. And I share that story because I think so many of us are entrained into swallowing down our truth and freezing when we're in trauma, when we're in shock. So I give thanks for whatever that was, that soul voice that came through in that moment.
Thank you for sharing that. I can see that some people in the chat said they were deeply moved by that, and it had deeply moved me when you told me that, because I think for me, I may have frozen. I don't know. It's like that. And to feel that courage and that to say that and the impact that it had to sort of,
Yeah. To see him also in his pain, in his, to do those things. It's like later I've heard this expression, "Those who are hardest to love need it the most." And I didn't even think like that, but there was some connection on a human to human level, on a soul level, that I'm so grateful that that happened like that.
and it's, I mean, I'm also hearing you didn't um, sort of yell at him. You called him forth. You called his highest self forth by not telling him to sort of get off you, but actually you are not a monster. And that feels really moving to me. So I think that's a very, very powerful, like I've received wisdom from that story that you've shared. And I will also share, because maybe, that I also got drugged in a situation when I was 19 in Australia. And there's a piece of me, I don't remember it, because I was put out, but I've had to forgive myself because I negated my intuition. Something in my whole body told me not to go to this place with this person. And I couldn't listen to that. He was so persuasive that it felt easier at that time just to say yes and go to this party, even when my body was telling me no. And so that's been a journey of forgiveness of myself, because there was a betrayal of my own intuition there. And so to hear your other side of that story of actually coming in that power, it's a beautiful reframe. And I think we all land on somewhere on that spectrum, and having the ability to be with ourselves and forgive ourselves whatever choice we may have made.
There's
So
many on my own path too that I've needed to forgive myself for. many, many choices that, created suffering for myself that I've needed to forgive myself for too, especially with relationships and with relationships with men who were addicts and, getting myself into some very scary, very violent situations.
Mhm.
So you're not alone in that, where, if only we trusted our intuition perfectly, we could escape all suffering and all mistakes. Though I like to say in this reality movie, there are no mistakes. It's like we learn and we grow and we forgive with every initiation.
I think this is the journey that we take as women through, the cycles of our life, from the maiden, the mother, and the crone, to learn these wisdoms. And we have to sometimes go through these experiences, and gain the wisdom on the other side. And so then, just continuing on with your journey, so you've been immersed in this, you've already had sort of some of these experiences by the time you're 17.
Yeah, I'm also getting all these like accolades of glamour and a sense of false identity because of my beauty and power, because I'm doing this magazine cover or that billboard or that commercial. And it's a very lonely life because you go into castings in the biggest cities of the world: Paris, London, Milan, Madrid, Barcelona. I've been all over because of this path in these cities where sometimes there's hundreds of women, and walking into a casting, every woman is looking you up and down in comparison, looking, is she taller? Is she skinnier? Is her boobs bigger? Is that a designer purse? Wow, is she going to get the job? There's no embrace. There's no camaraderie. There's no collaboration in that world. It's very cold and competitive. So that
And
was painful.
how did that affect you and shape your life at that age?
I became very self-sufficient and inward, and I started writing music, constant journaling, reading, devouring spiritual books, on jobs, big photo shoots with lots of other models. I'd be the nerdy one reading the book on the floor in the corner until it was my turn to do hair and makeup. I was just always in my own little world. And, I would be kind and friendly and try to connect and talk to people. And there were some glimmers and some sweetness here and there. But as far as like a normal like college education where you have friends and you're going through a similar thing, it's very different in that world. It was a bit
Mm.
isolating.
And then, so how did that like impact your own belief system and your own sense of, I guess, beauty as power? Because that there's obviously a real level of power you have in that position, holding that beauty. And I'm just curious if you would speak to how that impacted your own self on even the shadow level. How did you take that on?
It was, I was always split. There was like these parts running at the same time. One was thinking, I'm just gonna do this as long as it's like, I almost felt like an imposter syndrome, like I was acting, and with the lights and the makeup and the whole team, it wasn't even about me. So there was a part that was like, this is great money. Oh my God, I'm seeing the world. I'm traveling. I'll just stick with it till they discover I'm actually this really weird, nerdy, normal person that is just pretending. So there was this side that never really believed it, that never like milked it. Like I had roommates and I had women in my agencies that they were doing the things that you're kind of expected to do, like sleeping with the best photographer and milking that, beauty and power thing. And maybe by the grace of Goddess, I was kind of not really interested. I wasn't interested. I never slept with the famous, rich, powerful photographer, producer, or director. I didn't do the casting couch thing. So in a way that saved me some of the illusion of it's all about me and I'm going to get to the top and some kind of power trip in that way. There was another part of me that I always felt like I was more of an artist at heart too. So even though I was in the modeling world, I was writing songs and music with people that I could find in different cities. And there was ways that the beauty probably helped that too, like being seen as a potential pop star. Like when I was 18, I got a record deal living in Sydney for a Japanese record label. But all they wanted, it was like the negotiations of signing a 3-year contract. All they wanted was for me to sing what they said, wear what they said, basically stand on my head, cluck like a chicken if they told me to. It was like I had no artistic, creative sovereignty at all in that situation. And I'd already modeled in Japan twice, in Tokyo, and I knew that it was just go, 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 like work, work, work. And the money was so good. My boyfriend at the time thought I was a fool not to take the contract. But there was still that deeper voice that's like, this is like selling your soul. This is like selling out. And yes, the beauty got me in some doors, but there was a deeper part of me that was like, no, I can't just go for this material world's kind of pedestalized goals for that in itself. There's something else. There's an expression of my heart. There's a song in my heart that I need to follow. So there was these two paths up until I got a record deal that was for my own songs. And it took a while. And then when that happened, I thought, oh my God, my dreams came true. And then the producer fell in love with me and left his wife of 22 years for me in that year that we were working together. And I said, don't do this thing. I don't want that. And it was really heavy, really, really heavy karma. Really felt like I'd done something wrong by being my soulful, passionate, fully expressed self in front of him. And then the pain of having caused that threw me into a dark night of the soul at my Saturn return, where I had an experience that later I understood to be kind of like this culmination of that split, where there was that side that wanted the glamour and the power and the fame and the money, and this very, very soulful initiate side, this path of heart side that was still doing the yoga and meditating. And there was an incongruence there. When my producer left his wife, it's like my dreams came true. And then it all went to shit really fast for me. And I sat in the heat of that at the Landmark Forum, which was so intense. And for 3 days, I was listening to other people's heartbreaking shares and taking in all the like very mental, very intense kind of self-empowerment forum. And something happened during that experience. Maybe it was because I wasn't sleeping well. I was barely eating. I was making all these amends. I called my producer's wife. I was horrified. And my heart was breaking over this time. And then the leader of the forum asked a question. He said, when are we ever not in our winning formula of our ego or in our racket, which is like the negative egoic self-talk? And I raised my hand and I said, I've had moments in meditation, moments in yoga where there's just stillness and peace. And he said, take it to the microphone. And as I was standing at the microphone, my nervous system was so shaky. And I got my turn and I said the same thing at the microphone. And then he said, would you like to make a declaration? And I hesitated for a moment because I didn't understand what he meant. And then he said, never mind, sit down. And I said, no, I declare that I will use my life to sing Eden back on earth. It was like this huge declaration that I'd never spoken out loud before, 28 years old. And I felt high as a kite, like, whoa, I said this thing. I'm so lit up. And I sat down in the front row and I was like, I love this. This is amazing. And then the next person to come to the microphone was like my polar opposite. She was this very goth, very, long black hair, very white, all in black and Russian. And she's like, you are being brainwashed. This is all propaganda. They lied to the people in my country. They said we could make a difference. It's bullshit. And she was having a totally different reality movie. And I kept waiting for the leader to say something, and he didn't. And it just was like, got it, on with the program. And I don't know if it was my own inner chemistry, my nervous system. I started thinking, I just need to get out of here and go get on the earth. I need to stand on the earth. I was so ungrounded in that moment after 3 days of empathic overload, taking on all this intensity. And my body started shaking and shaking and shaking like an earthquake was happening. And then there was a sudden hot blast, and it felt like somebody pushed me from below and behind me, like pop. And the next thing I know, I came to on the stage next to the leader of the forum, and I didn't realize that I had blasted a song out about heaven on earth. And I came back for a moment and I looked at him and he looked at me and he's like, got it. And then for 4 days, nothing was normal. I didn't sleep, eat, or even want to drink water. I was just catalyzed, burning up this Kundalini energy that for the people around me, it looked like I was dosed with a lot of acid. It was really, really discombobulating, like an ayahuasca journey for 4 days with no ayahuasca. And from that, what I used to call sometimes a dark night of the soul, and now I call this Kundalini awakening moment, nothing could ever be the same. Nothing worked in the glamour world the way it did before for me. It was like Kali Ma came in and just went whack, like, wake up. No, all that splitting needed to come into union in my life. So it's been a journey since then to find the way. And that led me to the Divine Feminine Mystery School work, where I really felt like, that is the weaving. That is the beauty of this inner marriage, this place where the soul is in the body. The soul is home here, and we are in the heart. So that was a big catalyst for me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to open it up in this moment for any other questions that want to come in. Just to give it a moment. If anyone else wants to ask a question or drop something in the chat for Eden, for a question you have about your own journey. Something else you want to know. Something else you want to ask Eden.
Sarah Jane is raising her hand. Sarah, do you want to speak? I have to try to find you, sweetie. Okay. Can you unmute?
I can.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am so broken open with this chat. Thank you. And I just wanted to ask, as someone who was a solitary witch and has only recently come into the sisterhood, into the priestess world in the last 3 years, how has your journey been with the shadow of that sisterhood wound within the spiritual community?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're asking this, Sarah. Thank you. So that is the reason why I'm so deeply devoted to this particular lineage that I'm in. When I found my my priestess sisters, well, one actually found me. I was prayer forming. I was at this like very rockin' concert, and she came up to me after and she said, "You're a priestess." And I had never even considered that word. You know, in the West, we're so robbed of these divine feminine archetypes and even being a priestess. And when she said that, I was curious, but then I didn't follow the breadcrumb trail until I ran into her again. And then she invited me to the 13 Moon Priestess Training. And when I sat with her and her collaborator, two women holding a group of women, I sat in this empty presence, open-eyed meditation with them, and I could feel all the places in my body that were like, I am not going to be accepted. I'm too much. There's something I've done in the past that got me in trouble in some past life. It was like all these feelings and these memories of being cast out or unwanted. And when I shared that, there was only love and embrace and welcoming. And because of that template and being shown that after all those years, I was able to drop the shields on my heart. I was able to actually let myself be loved by sisters, soul sisters, and other women. And the circles are held in such unconditional love and such compassion that I watched all of these lotuses blossoming that first year, and my shared joy for other women and my championing for their highest and their best and their beauty, their success. I'd never felt that, the freedom of that, and how we do it together, and how that medicine is shared medicine and there's no scarcity. We've been sold such a lie. Harvard Business School marketing teaches sell scarcity, sell not enoughness. And we are lifting the veils together on that. And in this work, I felt it down to my bones that there's more than enough. There's more than enough love for everyone. So I'm glad you asked that, because it's really revolutionary. It's lifting the veil for the collective as we do this work. It's powerful. Yes. So if you've been feeling alone in your journey and haven't found that resonant, deep, soulful embrace with the feminine, it exists. It is here.
Thank you. Let's see if anyone else has a question.
You can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat. Jody, you're funny. Jody's like, I want to know if you can yodel. I crystal sing, and it would bust the Zoom up to do it. It's really, Zoom is still so inefficient with sound. So I love using my voice, and I know you do too, Jody. And it's a really big part of my path in self-healing and in training into a shared frequency and coherence when we sing together. It's one of my greatest joys. Love sound and singing.
Richard's got his hand up.
Yes.
You want to unmute, Richard? You want to ask a question?
I got it. I want to say that, as you can tell, I am a man in this life, but that does not mean at all that I don't have the divine feminine within me.
Absolutely, Richard. I'm glad you're saying that.
And I honor you.
Oh,
I honor you, dear goddess, dear priestess.
we honor you, beautiful brother. I'm glad you said that. And the divine feminine is in us all. Mother's love is in all of our hearts. It is the awakening heart that we walk forward in unity consciousness, and we honor each other, men, women, every gender, every color, every religion, everyone embraced, everybody's welcome in the divine feminine. That's the healing balm of this world. Thank you for speaking up and letting us feel your precious heart. So beautiful.
Thank you.
So much love. Ah. Oh, Laura's asking, what is your favorite song you've written and why is it your favorite? Oh, there's like maybe three songs. I feel like there's these songs that choose you sometimes that come through and you're really catching them, and it's just amazing. One song I wrote with 40 children called Dream of Peace. This is before my priestess training. This was just in that pop rock phase. And I was young mother with child at a Montessori school, and they were studying between Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday and Mahatma Gandhi's birthday. And a mom said to me, could you write a song for peace that the children can sing with you and we can perform at the school? And I was like, sure. And then it came out so awesomely that a dear friend of mine said, let's record it. I want to generously offer you this gift of recording this song with all these kids. And so the Dream of Peace got recorded. And then we did a concert at the Civic Center here in Marin County. And then the UN used it on their International Day of Peace website with the children's voices singing, I Dream of Peace. Oh, yeah, I'll just sing the chorus. The children are singing, Mama, what can I do to make this world a better place for me and you? Mama, who can I be to grow up in a world that's filled with harmony? Mama, what can I say to bring a little peace inside of each new day? Mama, I dream of peace. This precious world we share, it's time that we take care. Wake up and make it right. Yeah, there's much more, but this is this is a really sweet song that I love. There's another song called The Transmission that I feel like kind of channeled in after being in the mystery school training with our mentor Ariel Spilsbury, and you can find that on SoundCloud or YouTube under Amadora The Transmission, or iTunes, Spotify, Transmission and Dream Awake. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Diane. Yeah, The Transmission is really, really powerful. It's kind of like spoken word and prayer and remembrance. Yeah.
Right. So I have another question for you, Eden. You in your first year of the priestess initiation training, I think you did it with Kalila, right? She was your teacher.
Deva, who found me at the concert.
What was the biggest challenge for you in that year? Because we know for any of us, I know a lot of us here have been through the priestess path, but it's a path of initiation, right? Where we really have to meet the deepest aspects of our shadow. We have to sort of go through these initiations. And so just having shared your story and all that you've been lived through, and then coming into this very deep priestess training, what were some of the deepest initiations that you had to face inside yourself?
Yeah, the first year there was a lot of dismantling of the glamour and the ego identity. There's an archetype called the creator, destroyer, preserver that Charlotte and I work with. It's best known as Kali Ma, that tough, fierce love that's very like, take no prisoners, no bullshit. What are you attached to? And every archetypal temple has a different color frequency. And I still had a lot of identity as the rock star. And I dressed up in this like designer silk, red, black, and white dress with all this makeup, like what I would perform in, and jewelry. And I got to the initiation, and my focalizer, who was Kalila at the time, looked like a wild cave woman with like she was just so unhinged. And basically there was no being attached to being pretty anymore. It was like this shedding and just stripping away that happened in that initiation completely. And I could say more, but it would give away some of the initiation. It's mystery school training, you know, it was just brutal for my ego. And then there were layers of that where later, like any kind of special, like, oh, I'm fabulous because I've recorded albums, all of that, just being in the hot seat of, isn't it enough to just be present, just be love, just be, and you're not more special or less special. It's like we're here in the one heart, but lots of dismantling the part that doesn't feel enough, and so it performs and it's over the top, the part that doubts itself or that is like thinking it's hot shit. All of that comes into the center eventually in the initiations. And a lot of my initiation was around the masculine and finding deeper sovereignty, a deeper sense of self-love, self-honoring, that I can be love itself, that I don't need to grasp and grab at the approval of a man to be enough. That, you know, as a young woman, and because of the industry I was in, it was always like, do you see me? Am I beautiful? Am I lovable? Am I enough? If I'm desirable, will I be safe? And a lot of that got stripped away into purpose, passion, power, presence for myself as a soul, just being here in service. That first year, it came up being able to see I was in a super dysfunctional, toxic relationship with the rock star, another musician, and to actually be able to leave that situation with dignity and self-honor and self-love was really powerful. The work helped me get clear about patterns that I was engaged in, that I had been engaged in with the masculine since my early 20s. So lots of different initiations along the way.
So you brought up the masculine. Will you share just a little bit more, just briefly, so be mindful of the time, but just about your own journey, or the journey of seeking love and validation from outside of ourselves, and how that is one of the deep shadows also as women, seeking it from another.
I think men and women both, we've been, it's the, like I said, like the sea we're swimming in our culture, where we feel like our worth and our happiness is often dependent on an outer beloved, on an outer reflection of being wanted or being loved. I know it from the inside as a woman, so I know, and from all the women that I've been in these journeys with, in these circles with, that it is a core wound around codependence. And I've been there in the past, deeply codependent, staying in dysfunctional, toxic, abusive relationships too long before my initiations into sovereignty, into self-love. And self-love is such an ephemeral thing that sometimes I'll say, what if we think about it like self-trusting, self-honoring, self-respecting, even? Like you can kind of get that frequency. And then ultimately, it's all self-love. It's all about honoring the self as divine, precious, primary, because when our own hearts are really nourished, then we can truly love another. But until then, it's all just this romantic power play and codependence and trying to get validation and approval. So I know I'm not alone in that. And I was really caught up in that for years with men, living out that shadow of not enoughness, and seeking that reflection of, if I'm only desired, if I'm only seen as beautiful, I'll be safe. And it's a lie. It's just a core lie that we all need to break through eventually.
Thank you. And something that's coming up now, just if you'll be willing to speak into the deeper vulnerability that it takes. Like, what does it truly take inside us? What is the vulnerability that is being called forth in us to sort of stand in that deeper place of sovereignty, and especially in relationship? Like, can you speak in your own experience to the sort of deep inner vulnerability it takes to be truly authentic and in the heart?
I think you're pointing to it as you ask it in that way. It's like when we risk vulnerability, when we risk actually feeling and being with our feelings and integrating and holding ourselves, we start to enact an alchemy that changes everything in our relationships. We live in a culture that would say, don't feel depressed or sorrow or those intense feelings of pain. Just buy this, eat that, take this pill, drink this booze, whatever, to avoid feeling. And when we risk feeling the loneliness, when we risk feeling the desire that's unmet and diving deeper into the heart, I went through a second dark night of the soul after a massively annihilating breakup with someone that I had projected all of my own animus onto, my own soul. The way that we do this is so, every romance novel, every rom-com, every pop song is about that projected, idealized love in the opposite gender. I mean, unless, it's just a polarity in a same gender love story, these polarities of our souls that we will project out. And I did it to the degree that I thought I was going to die when this person rejected and annihilated me very radically, where I felt like, have I been just under some great spell, some illusion that this kind of love isn't even real? It was a radical annihilation of faith in that moment and my feeling of my heart. And then what I received was such immense grace from that apparent betrayal. And I think we want to choose an ideal partner that won't abandon us or see us as less than lovable. And in my own story, I dreamed up the perfect initiation to actually meet the divine even deeper in that moment of my journey, where because of the level of annihilation, it was at the height of the Me Too movement, there was so much collective rage against the masculine. I had not tapped into those feelings in myself. I didn't want to feel them. And I allowed myself to feel the collective feminine rage and sorrow that we're holding towards the masculine. This place that we're screaming out, I think it's towards the greater patriarchal machinery even that actually injures men equally as women. But there is a way that rage towards this division, this separation, this longing for love and union was so intense that I entered another 3-day burn where, again, it was like a Kundalini thing where I couldn't sleep and just sweat through my sheets for 3 days. I didn't have a virus. I wasn't sick. I barely functioned during the day, no sleep all night. And on the third night at around 3 a.m, I started to pray, not to the Divine Mother, but to the Divine Father, because there was a part of my psyche that had said, I don't even believe in God. Like, F you, God. If you're real, why would you make us suffer like this? Why would you abandon us like this? There was a rage against the divine masculine, because mother felt like everything I could feel on earth and each other. It felt like we're here in the mother, but there was this kind of transcendent God figure that we've been sold that's very punishing and separate and just annihilating. And in that moment, as I raged against God, I said, show me what I need to see. Because if I don't awaken, this pain I'm going to end up in the mental hospital. again, as I did when I was 20, 29 with the dark night of the soul. And in that moment, I was shown grace. I was actually shown that everything I raged against, everything I blamed, the feelings I was having towards the man that just brutally betrayed and rejected me, the way that I wanted him to pay and I wanted revenge against him, all the darkness in myself was up so much. I was shown where I had been that in some way, where I had hurt others, where I had rejected, where I had betrayed, where I had annihilated their hopes and dreams. It's not a male-female thing at all. It's a human thing. And I saw myself, and then I saw my ex-husband who'd been extremely abusive and other boyfriends who had, and I forgave them. I forgave everyone that I had seen as being a perpetrator or having injured me in some way. And then I forgave myself completely because I was shown all the ways that I had been that energy, the ego, the separation, the pain that I'd caused. And in that particular moment, there was grace. There was a beautiful mystical experience that dawned at 3 a.m. in my dark room. This kind of light came through. And I thought, is this an angel? What is this? It was like a bright light coming, showering down from behind and above as I was lying in my bed. And it revealed itself to be a branch. And it was a soft and damp Meyer lemon branch that swept through my whole body. And I could still see my whole room, but I could see the inside of the branch, and it was on me and it was in me. And as it cleared my whole body, it swept the bottom of my feet like a smudge, like a shamanic kind of purification. And then there was this blast of gold light. And all of a sudden I was in the center of this infinite, the sun, this gold sun. And in that moment, I felt immense love from the divine masculine. And I felt like, oh, how could I have asked, are you even real? You're the light. You're the light. You're everywhere. It takes the light and the form and the water and mother and father here to be here. So all the ways I denied the divine masculine, for 3 days, I was absolutely in love with the divine masculine. I mean, I'm still in love with mother and father in the heart beyond gender. It's just that in that time, it was like ecstasy. For 3 days straight, I was like playing my flute and looking at the rainbow chart in the grocery store, crying because the beauty, thinking, we are so loved. We are so loved. There's so much beauty here. There's so much abundance here. There's so much goodness here. If we could just remember and receive it and open the heart. So in that moment, my relationship also changed with the masculine too. There was a place where in that inner marriage, I was no longer projecting out my animus on men. I wasn't seeking the idealized divine beloved in another human. I knew it was in me. It was already here in the heart. And that did change the way I navigated. And yeah, that was going on 7 years ago. It's still a journey. It's still a real human journey of relationship and relating always. But it did change that very codependent pattern where I wasn't in my sovereignty.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I just want to open it up to the field again and see if there's any other questions that are coming through just from that piece that's been shared.
There's a lot of beautiful comments. I'm just reading the chat. Thank you, everyone. Oh, thank you for your open hearts and vulnerable shares in the chat. Yeah, Renee is saying Matthias De Stefano also talks about healing this divine father aspect in his remembering series on Gaia. Yes, it is both.
So maybe you can just share a little bit about this, because I know next year you're doing the Mysterium again, a year-long priestess training. And the theme is the inner union, right? So now maybe you could just speak to that, like what is, just a little bit more about the inner union.
So I needed to go really, really deep into the divine feminine to feel her, embody her, live, breathe, become like channel this, goddess energy for over 13 years. And then after that, I call it the sun heart awakening experience that I had with the divine masculine. This has been growing in me as my own personal initiation into wholeness and balance and harmony. And my heart wishes to share more of the initiation into what's called Heros Gamos, the inner marriage, divine union. In the divine feminine mysteries, it's touched upon. It is a big part of our mystery school training. And it's time to bring it towards the forefront more in each of the initiatory temples, because embedded in each of the 13 faces of the divine feminine is its divine masculine counterpart. And it's everywhere in our world, in sacred geometry. There's so many ways that we're being shown. It always takes the two, the Vesica Pisces of union, for us to even be here. So we've been living in a culture that has kind of robbed us of the divine feminine for thousands of years. And then in this rising and an awakening and divine feminine movement, we kind of swung really deeply also into, just like the women need to take back over. This isn't working. And I disagree. I feel like it's about all of us coming into this union and balance in our hearts, because it is through that portal that there'll be true peace and harmony within and in the outpicturing of our lives in this world. On YouTube, I have a video about the dream of Amadora, where the name came to me, and it's about this exact thing. It was a mythic dream that was gifted to me about 14 years ago about this. It's about actually living in harmony, in balance between these parts of ourself, not just our masculine essence and our feminine essence, our divine essence and our primal essence, without denying the body, without denying our humanity. That this is the only way to come into peace. It's through the union in the Sacred Heart. So the whole training will be nurturing us in that initiation, will be holding us in that initiation through each of the temples. How do we heal the splits and fragments and shadow aspects and parts that we're still caught in victim perpetrator consciousness? Where are we not in our radical, sovereign, empowered responsibility? Because the world needs us there. We need to step into that place now. And that is the inner marriage. We are in radical responsibility for our own outpicturing, our own experience there. There's so much more I could say, but it's getting kind of late too.
Yeah, so just see if there's any final questions that want to come forward, or if anyone else's voice wants to be heard. We heard from Sarah Jane, which was beautiful earlier. So we'd just love to hear another voice if anyone else wants to share or ask a question.
I just want to also thank you, Charlotte, because I know we were sharing vulnerably before the call started that, this isn't your usual MO. You're not used to doing things like this. And in the name of the beauty of the work and the message and the conversation being important in these times, you were willing to show up and you initiated this. You asked me to do this. So I just want to deeply, deeply honor you, your wisdom, your love. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this call.
Thank you, Eden. Yes, it's not a I haven't interviewed someone before, so it's a good challenge, but it's beautiful to be here with everyone in this setting and to hear your story come forth in a deeper way that can be in service to all of us. And also remembering that, you know, it's an ongoing journey. Like there's nowhere we actually reach, you know, we're never fully like there. We just go deeper and deeper into our own unraveling. And so it doesn't matter how many times like you've been through the mystery school circle or myself, and I know there's other priestess sisters here, Diane, Sarah Jane, that I know that have been through it so many times. And yet each time we go through this initiatory training, it opens us up more. We have to meet another part of ourselves. We have to go deeper. And it is a path of initiation. And I feel the world is an initiation right now. And so for any of us that are called or are on the spiritual path or are called into this priestess work, into just, we don't even have to put a name on it. It's actually just standing in our own truth. We can take all names and all labels off, because what does it truly mean to walk as a priestess? It just means to walk in utter sovereignty and truth and worthiness of who we are and stand for love. And to do that requires walking through the depths of our own being. And I think for me, also finding the 13 Moon Mystery School, it has been a catalyst for meeting these parts of ourselves and being held in such a deep, powerful container that, and to be initiated, to be held, you know, and Eden's been my initiator, just like, say, Kalila was your initiator, right? And we get held accountable for our truth, to be called forth into the deeper truth of who we are. It's never about judgment or criticism. It's actually only ever about pulling forth who we are beyond our conditioning. And I think that's the beauty of this path. And so I just thank you for sharing that, for sharing your vulnerable story, Eden, with us. And I do notice that Sylvia has her hand up, and I'd love to hear her voice before we completely end.
I think she wants to play us something on her flute at the very end. Am I right, Sylvia? Yeah, she's hoping to offer some flute. So yes, I feel this is a good time. And I'm so grateful for all of you being here and sharing your hearts and your beautiful messages in the chat. Thank you so much. So thank you. I'm going to say, yes, Sylvia, take us out with a few beautiful notes from your flute, love.
Thank you, everyone who was part of this call, and Eden, Charlotte, and all of us at the collective circle of holding space as Sibstars, as siblings across the gender spectrum. So, and I would like to offer a chant. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. May all beings thrive. May each of us be part of that thriving.
Thank you so much, sister. Beautiful. Wow. Good medicine for our hearts today. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. So much love. So good to be with you. Just get to see you even in these tiny little squares. Love you all. Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you again so much. And I guess I would just say, for anyone who's interested, Charlotte, do you have access to the Mysterium link? If you go to edenamadora.com, it says Priestess Training right in the nav bar, and that'll take you to the page. If Charlotte can easily find it, she'll pop it in the we forgot to prepare. She'll pop it in the chat, and you can just feel the frequency and read the page, and then there's a button to apply. It is by application because it is a very, very deep path of initiation. And it is about the readiness and the ripeness of each soul to step into this work. And there it is. Thank you, Charlotte, so much. So EdenAmador.com/Mysterium-Priestess-Training is the link. And we look forward to meeting you. For those who feel called, who feel ready, you'll either get to do an interview with Charlotte or myself or another priestess sister of ours named Alexis. And I would love to be with you in that deep journey. Only love, everyone. Only love. Bye for now.